good morning and welcome back to another day as we are continuing on through our 7-week journey of the book. My name is Kevin Young and I have the privilege of serving as lead clergy at Christ Table. If you'd like to know more about Christ Table, visit that URL right there, www.christstable.today. Sign up for the email list there so that you will be updated on everything that happens around Christ Table. If you'd like to know more about this study in particular, then the URL right there in front of me, go.christstable.today/thebook is the place where you can get all of the information about this study, a daily schedule you can download there, as well as a printed PDF of all of these studies, questions to go along with it, adolescent questions, children and youth. You can get all of that there for free. And if you want a printed copy of this, we can get that to you as well, though we offer the PDF absolutely for free, but we offer lots of other spiritual resources as a part of a box that you can get right there at that URL, go.christstable.today/thebook. So this week, we are spending our time looking into the wisdom literature in the Bible, which is generally a collection of books: Job, Psalm, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and then Song of Songs. These are books that are a little bit different in scope and in content than a lot of the other places in Scripture. And so for a lot of people, it is their favorite part of Scripture. And for some people, it's a little bit difficult sometimes, especially if you get into the book of Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs. What does that one mean? And Job raises a lot of questions. Well, today we're going to take just a short kind of overview look at one section of wisdom literature, the book of Proverbs, which many people will be familiar with, even if you don't have a strongly religious context. Many of the things that you will find in this book of Proverbs are sayings that still, thousands of years after they were written, are still being utilized in everyday language and everyday speech. So we will begin there in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1, where it begins by saying, "These are the Proverbs of Solomon, David's son, king of Israel." Now, one of the things that is very fascinating about the book of Proverbs is that the book of Proverbs was written by Solomon, David's son, king of Israel. We spoke about this a little bit yesterday, and if you want to kind of crash course on who Solomon was, then go ahead and take a look at yesterday's study. But the interesting thing is that Solomon is not the only author in the book of Proverbs. In fact, the book of Proverbs gives us two other additional named authors or collectors, and probably two additional authors or collectors that were not named. So there is at least 5 different individuals who contributed by hand or contributed by collection from other people to the book of Proverbs. So this is a group of things, not just Solomon's. Their purpose is to teach, well, why don't we go back to that since we moved on a little bit too quickly. Their purpose is to teach people wisdom and discipline and to help them understand the insights of the wise. And so kind of the point of this section of the Bible, Proverbs, is given right out of the gate to help teach wisdom and discipline. Self-discipline, I think, is perhaps what's in view here, to help them understand the insights of wise individuals. The purpose is to teach people to live in a way that is also disciplined and successful, to help them do what is right and what is just and what is fair. And sometimes we need that kind of help, right? We need to rely on the wisdom of other people. One of the most dangerous things is for us to assume, and the Bible kind of plays this out from cover to cover, that one of the most disastrous things that you can do is go it alone. Go without a community or go without a higher power. That's the point of the Bible, that it tries to communicate to us. These proverbs will give insight to the simple, knowledge and discernment to the young. Let the wise even listen to these proverbs and become even wiser. You can't ever be smart enough, mature enough to listen to other people. Let those with understanding receive guidance by exploring the meaning of these proverbs and parables by the words of the wise and their riddles, and there are riddles in here, and there are parables and proverbs, and sometimes it takes a little bit of digging to understand what they mean, and sometimes thousands of years later, it's kind of difficult for us to understand what they meant in their original context. But dig deep, dig deeply, dig deeper, you will find more than enough. And then this is maybe one of the most important verses in Proverbs, because it kind of gives us the key to unlocking the point of Proverbs. Fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools respect wisdom and discipline. So there are a couple of concepts there that I want to point out. First of all, the fear of the Lord, and kind of the point of Proverbs, the idea here of following these things is so that you will have a healthy fear of the Lord. In fact, there it says that it is the foundation of true knowledge. So if you're going to have any knowledge or any smarts or any wisdom, then fear of the Lord really has to be the starting point and the foundation of that. So God is critical. Now, when we English speakers hear the word fear, we think like, well, today, the day that this is live, is Halloween, All Hallows Eve. A day that is often filled with frights and tricks and stories of scary things. We think of fear in that way, but really the fear of the Lord here is more of an awe, a deep respect, an understanding of the holiness and otherness of someone or something else. So when it says the fear of the Lord, this is more of a reverence, of a respect, than it is something that is cowering in fear in the way that we might understand it. So reverence, awe, respect, taking things at their word is the foundation of true knowledge. But fools despise wisdom, and fools despise discipline. So we'll hit pause there, and just a couple, three things that I want to say about Proverbs as you work through the book of Proverbs, if you are going to do that a little bit here today, or if you're going to do it a little bit down the road. The first thing is that Proverbs are essential advice for good living. So the Proverbs are going to cover a lot of practical ground, a lot of things about work, a lot of things about relationships, a lot of things about how to live well and interact well practically in the world in which you reside and have been placed. And they are everyday examples of God's truth in real life. And so what they're trying to do is to help you understand that whenever you are doing this living thing well, this is what it's going to look like. This is what it is going to yield to you whenever you apply God's truth to real life. But I also have to point out something here that's really very important, that is maybe a difficult swallow for people who are new to the faith, or people who have had a very strongly literal understanding of Scripture given to them. And it's this, is that Proverbs are not a thus saith the Lord kind of promise. There are many statements in here. One that comes to mind is one that many of you may have heard or have even said, that, train up a child in the way that they will go, and when they're old, they'll not depart from it. All of us can understand how generally that proverb is truthful. Whenever you educate a child well early on, in the right way of living, in a good way of living, and in an honest way of living, when they're old, even if they walk away from that for a season, when they're old, they will oftentimes walk back to that core that they were trained with as a child, the good way. But we all also know that though that may be generally true, it is not always true. We all have stories and examples of people who were raised to live well, to love others, had a great parenting situation, or had a great family of origin situation, who kind of became really tragic stories of their lives and never really walked back to a healthy place ever. even in long life. We see some of those people. So we can't look at Proverbs and say that Proverbs is a you do this in this way and it will 100% always yield this result. That is not the point of Proverbs. It doesn't work that way. Other sections of the Bible may work that way. This one does not. It's not the way it's written. It's not the point. It is trying to leverage it to use it for something that it is not intended to be. So these are general principles that will apply to most people and most circumstances most of the time. And this is really what the point of Proverbs is to help us understand that there's always a choice in our lives between acting wisely and acting foolishly. And in fact, both of these ideas, wisdom and folly, become kind of characters in the book of Proverbs. And it talks a lot about Lady Wisdom, and it talks a lot about folly, and it's almost like this play with actors that have voices and have characteristics, and there's always a choice as to whether or not we move and live and act and speak wisely, or whether or not we move and live and act and speak foolishly in life. And Proverbs is trying to help us understand what it looks like to act and live and move and speak wisely, and what happens and what it looks like whenever we act and move and live and speak foolishly. And so if you keep these things in mind whenever you are looking and reading the book of Proverbs, then it is a key that will unlock a greater understanding as well as a greater sense of peace as to what's going on in this book. Well, it's been great to be with you today. Look forward to being with you tomorrow as we move forward into another book, another section of the wisdom literature. And until that time,